hear ye. All persons having anything to do before the Honorable, the Justice E. Susan Gosh of the Superior Court, now sitting at Fall River within and for the Commonwealth. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Court is now in session. Be seated, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Today is Thursday, April 2nd, 2015. The case on trial is Commonwealth v. Aaron Hernandez, indictment BRCR 2013-0983. The Honorable E. Susan Gosh presiding.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Have any of you seen, heard, read, or overheard anything at all about this case or Mr. Hernandez since I last inquired? There are no affirmative responses. Have any of you discussed this case in any way with anyone at all, or discussed Mr. Hernandez or your jury service with anyone at all? There are no affirmative responses. And have any of you had any difficulty following any of my instructions not to talk about or in any fashion communicate about the case, not to read anything or look at anything about this case, or communicate or listen to anything about the case, or do any research about the case or anything you think could be relevant to the case or Mr. Hernandez? There are no affirmative responses. The witness may resume the stand, and if I could just see counsel for a moment.
May I inquire?
You may.
Mr. Assett, when we ended yesterday, we were going through the different cameras on the DVR, and I believe that we had reached camera 2.
Correct.
Where does camera 2 look?
Camera 2 is that camera right there. It is located on the back of what has been determined the third bay, and it overlooks the backyard.
Okay, and is that an analog or a digital camera?
That is an analog camera.
Turning to camera 3. Good. Where does this camera overlook?
The driveway area.
And is this an analog or a digital camera?
Also analog.
Camera 4.
Camera 4 is located along the roof line, again overlooking the backyard from a different view than camera 2.
And is this a digital or an analog camera?
Also analog.
Are there any cameras at 5, 6, or 7?
There is not.
Okay, camera 8.
Camera 8 is located looking at the front door underneath the roof of the front door.
And is this an analog or a digital camera?
Also analog.
So with regards to all of the analog cameras that we've discussed, the time and date that's on the top, is that consistent with the time and date at the bottom on the green line, the system time?
It is.
Okay. And on 5, 6, and 7, when you said that there was no camera there, is there any video at all in the DVR at any point that is matched up to those 3 boxes there, 5, 6, and 7?
The DVR was told to record those 3 channels, but there were no pictures present here. It's just a black screen with a timestamp overlay.
And 10, where are those located?
They are both also on the front porch.
You could sort of bring one of those up. And these particular cameras, does the angle on these cameras move at all?
They do. They are the 2 pan, tilt, and zoom cameras.
And are these analog or digital cameras?
These are digital.
Okay, so the difference with the digital cameras, can you describe what the difference is with regards to the date and time between the analogs and the digitals?
The timestamp on the 6 digital cameras, none of them match up to the system time. They're all off by different varying amounts of time.
And the particular sort of area of the screen that we're talking about is the top left here?
Correct.
So that time is all off?
Correct. It is actually June 17th at 1:43 in the afternoon. This is reflecting June 18th at 1:52 in the morning.
The system time remains consistent with the rest of the cameras.
Correct.
Camera 11,
Did you want to do 10?
sorry, 10, yeah, just show us quickly if you could, 10. And
10.
This is also a pan, tilt, and zoom camera?
It is, and it typically is looking down Ronald C. Meyer, looking at Homeward Lane down here.
Camera 11,
A digital camera looking at the basement area or the man cave.
camera 12,
Camera 12 is located on the pool house looking at the back door.
digital or an analog camera?
Digital.
Again, so this would require using the green bar to find the time?
Correct.
Camera 13,
Camera 13 is looking at the foyer in the front door.
and again, is this an analog or a digital camera?
This is digital.
Camera 14,
He's looking at the great room.
again, analog or digital?
Digital.
With regards to the skipping that you saw, or the freezes, did those occur on both analog and digital?
No, they did not.
Which type of camera had the problem?
The digital cameras.
And when you watched all of this video, did all of the digital cameras exhibit that particular problem?
Some had a worse extent here, but they all exhibited it at some point.
And was there any sort of consistencies of when it occurred? Did it occur particular times of the day more than others, or is there anything that you could say is a pattern?
There is no pattern to when it was going to occur.
And in your training and experience, sir, do you have an opinion as to why that occurred?
Yes, I do.
With regards to the freezing issues that we've been discussing, Mr. Reset, how common is that particular type of issue in your experience?
It's quite common with digital cameras. Analog, not common at all.
Now, looking at this particular screen here, sir, how do you tell if there's video for a particular sort of moment in time on the screen for that particular camera at that particular time? Can you tell from the screen?
Yes, you can.
How do you tell?
The gray bar back here, there is no video data present. The green bar, starting at the green bar, video is present during this whole time span. And if we zoom out to 24 hours, there is video at the beginning, absent in the middle, present at the end.
And just so we understand, how did you zoom out to 24 hours?
I apologize. It's these three buttons right here. You can set the time, sort of the time range of what you want your time bar to be. Again, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, and 24 hours.
Now, can you bring up a four-camera view of cameras 10, 12, 13, and 14 at or around 3 o'clock on the 17th?
Yes.
Now,
What was that time again?
well, this is good for what we have. Can you just describe sort of the range of time that we're looking at across the bottom of the screen?
Absolutely. We're looking at midnight, starting on June 17th, to almost midnight, June 18th. This is a 24-hour range, and the bars go down as you have channel 10, camera 10 here, 12, 13, 14. This represents 10, 12, 13, 14.
Now, if you could just go to sort of right before that gray line is. All right, what time are we at here?
I'll go right here. We are at 3:40 a.m.
All right.
Sorry about that.
And then
3:40 a.m.
If you could get close to the transition and show us what happens when you reach that transition.
As we let it play along here, you will see each camera drop out as the video stops recording.
And now, which camera are we looking at that's still on the screen?
Camera 10.
And is that the one with the thick green line across the top?
That is correct.
All right. one more piece working with the system, sir. Actually, a couple more things. How do you actually log out of the system?
When you're in a screen like this, you want to return to the home screen. So you use the right click. That removes the video from the screen. Right click again will bring you back to the main menu. Right click here. Left click on main menu. And then you hit you left click on the shutdown button. You can log out, shut down.
What's the difference? Oh, log out would just be take the one user out and bring it back to the login screen for somebody else?
Correct, and the system will remain powered up. Shutdown obviously means it will be powered down.
Is there a particular reason to use the shutdown menu as opposed to just sort of pulling the plug on the system?
Typically, you don't want to just pull the plug on the system because you don't know if it will actually save the data here. Not that we're actually saving data at this point, but for a common use.
Now, you've described the process that you use to take video from the machine itself and put it on your computer, correct? You could just sort of reiterate how you did that.
To extract the video from the DVR using the backup function, there is no. First, I had plugged in an external hard drive, so it would be recognized here. After doing that, I don't have a disk present here. After doing that, you'll be brought up a window that would prompt you for the date range that you want to back up. Then I would have selected the date range that was available, and I said to back up the data.
Okay, and what was the reason that you couldn't use the data once it was in the backup format?
I could view it, but I could not do any editing on it.
Okay, and how did you get it into an editable format?
I used the screen capture program called Movavi, which basically just captures your computer screen and puts into an open file format.
How many hours of video are actually on the DVR?
We go from 4 a.m. on June 16th to 7:54 is when the system was shut down. So you're looking at 51 hours.
Times the number of cameras?
Times the number of cameras, correct.
Have you used the program that you described previously to create some video clips for the jury here today?
That in addition to Adobe Premiere, yes.
Okay. So describe for the jury what Adobe Premiere is.
The Adobe Premiere is a video editing software that allows you to take the videos you have and to basically take only the portions you want and then export it from there.
Okay. And how did you use that program to create video segments?
I would capture the video that I wanted, import it in, and then just select the time frames from there, then export it out to a MP4 format.
Okay. And with regards to what you prepared for today, how did you sort of cut and piece it, if you would? How is it organized?
It is organized chronologically and by camera.
And then did you put certain things within certain file folders?
I did, based upon the events that was expressed interest.
Okay. And then within each file folder, how did you arrange the particular files?
I arranged them chronologically to when the first event would occur on a particular camera, and then follow the cameras along.
If I might approach you, Ron. Show you this thumb drive, Mr. Musette? That's what you recommend that is.
I do.
And what is that?
That is the thumb drive containing the clips that I created.
Okay. And how do you know this is the same thumb drive?
It has my initials on it.
And are the segments that are on this particular thumb drive true and accurate copies of what is on the original DVR?
Yes, they are.
And how do you know that?
I've watched them all.
Move to admit, Your Honor.
Objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Musette, could you plug this in? And just for the record, Your Honor, 427, I'm asking Mr. Musette if you could just sort of put that into his computer. Before we get to that, Mr. Reset, did you prepare a set of instructions for the logging in and logging out of the DVR and how to select video?
I did.
Yeah, of course. Handing you a 3-page document, ask you what that is.
I do.
What is that?
That is the document I prepared for instructions on how to use the DVR.
And how do you know it's the same that you prepared?
Because I prepared it and it looks the exact same.
And with regards to how did you go about preparing this? In other words, what were your source materials for this?
The actual DVR manual itself was where the screen captures were from.
I'm going to move to admit this, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
Not just the next exhibit.
All right, sir, on the screen, you've pulled up what looks like a file directory. What are we looking at?
What we are looking at is based upon what was expressed of interest here, the 9 events from the DVR that was interested in.
Okay, and if you just say choose event 5, and then within the folder, what are we looking at?
You're looking at 3 camera views from a set period of time.
And how are those organized?
They're organized chronologically. The event in camera 3 happened first, camera 14 happened second, and camera 13 happened third. There will be some overlap between some of these cameras. Camera 14 and 13 actually covers some of the same period.
Okay. And are all of the directories consistent in terms of that organizational format?
They are.
Am I used overhead, Your Honor? The overhead shuts off the screen. Yeah. Go ahead, Coach. I'm going to show you Exhibit 317A, which is a set of images. Yes. And then 321A, which is a set of images. Good. Do you recognize the set of images?
I do.
And what are 321A and 317A in general terms?
They are video images. They're still taken from the video DVR.
Okay. For the record, Your Honor, 321A. This particular image, Mr. Reset, is this one of the sequences? Is this a single image from one of the sequences that are on the drive that we were just talking about?
Yes, they are. Yes, it is.
For the record, 321A. Where on the thumb drive is 321A? Within which folder and which particular piece of video?
That one is in event 4. That we're looking at camera 14. That is number 414.
Okay, thank you. Looking at number 317. Do you recognize this particular single image?
I do.
And is this one of the series of videos that you captured? A single image from the series of video you captured?
It is.
Again, this is 317A. Yeah, can you tell us where within the directory 317A is?
Absolutely. This is looking at camera 13, and this will be event 5. This particular camera starts at 1532 camera time. This image is at 1534.
Mr. Bissett, could you just kind of describe what you're doing there?
I was just scrolling through the video so that we could get to the set time of 34:57. And this is the image that we are looking at, or a close proximity.
You could just go back to the directory structure again. Go all the way out again if you could. Which folder is that in?
That is in event 5.
And which of the files within event 5 is that?
That was 3, camera 13.
Thank you. Thank you. Nothing further.
Morning, Mr. Rosette.
Good morning, Mr. Rankin.
So yesterday you were describing Exhibit 150 and 151, correct?
That is correct.
So the hard drive that's in the DVR player, what exhibit is that?
151.
151. And I think you said that you received that hard drive in August of 2013?
That is correct.
And you received that as a result of a request with the DIMS unit of the state police?
That is correct also.
And you've spent a lot of time on the DVR and the video in this case, is that right?
I have.
I mean, there's, I think you said that in general the DVR has about 48 hours of footage, give or take?
Correct.
And there are 10 cameras?
11.
11 cameras?
Yes.
So 11 times 48 is about 530 hours, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
And you've watched most or all of that?
I have watched most of it, not all of it.
All right. And so you've started watching it on this hard drive that was furnished to you in early August of 2013, correct?
The DVR itself here, I didn't start watching it until late August, late 2014 here. I was looking at the backup initially during most of 2014.
Okay, so let me just see if I understand the sequence.
Mm-hmm.
In August of 2013, you get a cloned image of the original hard disk drive?
That is correct.
And you understand in general how the state police DIMS unit handles this sort of evidence?
Oh, yes.
And you know Trooper Conran?
I do. Well, I don't know him personally, but I do know of him.
And you know that he was at the search when the surveillance system was seized on June 18th.
I watched that, yeah.
And that he and some investigators looked at the video from the original hard disk drive out in the DIMS van at the scene of Ronald C. Meyer Drive.
Correct.
And you recall his testimony that there was no skips and freezes in the footage that he saw as they were watching the original hard disk drive in the mobile unit.
I honestly don't remember that.
Okay. And then you understand that he took that DVR and the original hard disk drive back to the state police lab.
I remember that, yep.
And then he went through a process of making a mirror image or a clone of the original hard disk drive.
Yep.
And then once that was done onto a state police server, some verification process was done, right?
Correct.
And that involves the use of a hash system,
Correct.
H-A-S-H.
Correct.
And in some manner, they have a technique of being able to compare digitally the original hard disk drive and what's stored on the state police system.
Correct.
And they can determine that that's an exact copy of the original hard disk drive.
As long as the hashtags match, correct.
And then when an order comes in and it says, we need a copy of the original hard disk drive, they can restore the information from the server onto a blank hard disk drive.
That's my understanding, yes.
And that should be identical to the original hard disk drive.
Correct.
And so I think you said that the hard disk drive that is in the machine now is one of those clones.
It is.
And that was prepared in August.
Correct.
And the reason that was prepared is why?
The first clone was overwritten.
Was overwritten. What do you mean overwritten?
When the initial viewing of the DVR system, the analog cameras were not told to stop recording. Therefore, they were erasing some of the data off the cloned image.
And when did that happen?
I wasn't viewing it, so the best of my recollection is from June all the way up until July 30th.
So some of the information that had been on the first clone was erased in the process of investigators or people from the district attorney's office examining that information.
That is correct.
And so how was that discovered?
The person who was viewing the video asked me to come look at something. I went to go look at it. He discovered it wasn't there anymore. He says, I swear to you it was there. I believed him. I checked out the configuration on the DVR, and I found that the analog cameras were still recording.
Okay. So this was at the time when the device, the DVR, was at the North Attleboro Police Station.
That is correct.
And who was the person that asked you to come take a look at it?
His name is Joseph Zawanka.
And who is that?
He is somebody who was being employed by the DA's office at the time.
To assist the investigators in processing the digital evidence.
Correct.
And so when you say that the the analog cameras continued to record, the DVR wasn't connected to any cameras then, is that correct?
Correct. Much like we saw with 5, 6, and 7, they were still, there's nothing there. It's all a black screen, but it's still recording, taking up some space.
And so the DVR thought that there was camera coming in, and the setting called for it to continue recording.
Absolutely, and to overwrite the earliest events. And
so the beauty of having the original backed up onto the state police server was you could then call up Trooper Conrad and say, can we have another clone?
It is nice.
And that's what occurred in August.
Correct.
And Presumably, that new clone that's in there now, was that hashtagged to see if it was identical, or do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, you were referring, a couple of times you referred to working with the original hard disk drive yesterday. And I just want to make sure our terms are correct. The original hard disk drive, when I say that, do you understand me to mean the hard drive that was in the DVR when it was taken by the state police on June 18?
I've never worked with that.
Well,
No, that's me. It would be the original hard disk drive, correct?
okay. So the original hard disk drive, you've never worked with that?
No,
You've never looked at it?
no,
You've never compared what's in the DVR now to the original hard disk drive?
no, I have not.
And you haven't looked at it to see if it's a bit-for-bit copy?
No, that's what the hashtag is typically used for.
And you don't know if that was done to make the copy that we're looking at?
No, I do not.
Now, and when I say bit-for-bit copy, that means that it's cloned or identical, hashed?
Yes,
correct?
absolutely.
Okay. Now, you said that you compared the video snippets that you've put on this thumb drive, Exhibit 427, to the what plays through the system on 150 and 151.
I have.
And when you say you've, and about how many hours of video are on that little thumb drive, 427?
I'm going to guess here, it's probably about 5 hours.
Okay. Something in that range.
Absolutely.
And so when you say you've compared it, do you mean to say that you've had two screens in front of you, and on one screen you were playing the DVR, and on the other screen you were playing on a computer the images from the thumb drive?
Not from the thumb drive, from the Adobe Premiere Pro, from all my captures.
Okay. And so when you say your captures, are the captures what are wound up on the thumb drive?
Absolutely.
So in other words, you did not capture the entire hard disk drive that's in 150 and 151?
No, I did not.
You just selected about 5 hours of stuff that you wound up putting on the thumb drive?
That is correct.
And and when you say you played them side by side, is that right?
That is correct.
And you didn't notice any discrepancies?
None.
And did you play them frame for frame?
I played them real time here. I did not click frame by frame forward, no.
Okay. So, do you understand what I mean by frame?
I do.
And so, these cameras that were recording, were they set to record at a certain frame rate?
The digital cameras capture at a lower frame rate than the analog cameras.
Okay, what frame rate were the digital captures, digital recordings set at?
They captured at 20.
All right. And how do you know that?
Because through using the DVR, through the backup, and I did single click through to find out how many frames it was per second here.
All right. So if the DVR has the capability of allowing you to click frame by frame.
It does.
And so in one of the digital cameras, frame by frame would have 20 separate images. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And what about the analog cameras?
30.
30 frames per second.
Correct.
Now, I think you were shown Exhibit 321A and 317A.
I was.
And so this is a series of images, still photographs, right?
Correct.
And a number of them have the same time displayed on the screen. Is that right?
That is right.
And so you might have, this is a digital camera in the great room, is that right?
That is correct.
And so that would be 20 frames per second?
Correct.
And so you might actually have 20 individual photographs for that second of video.
Again, with the digital cameras, they did drop frames, but yes, in theory, you would have 20 individual pictures or frames per second.
So if they didn't have the freezing and dropping problem, you would expect to find 20 images per second.
I would.
And if you fanned them like, when I was a kid, you had little books, cartoon books.
You should see him moving across the screen, yeah, in that manner.
So if you compare one to another, the next one might look almost identical, but if you look from frame 1 of that second to frame 20 of that second, you might see some movement.
Absolutely.
And am I correct in understanding that that gets complicated because of this phenomenon of freezes and skips?
Absolutely.
And so there are times when you see a person at one place in the room and then the video seems to just stop like you've put it on pause.
True.
And then some period of time later, the person either disappears completely from the scene or has moved across the room without moving smoothly.
That is correct also.
And you're not able to tell us whether that phenomenon occurs on the original hard disk drive.
I did not look at the original hard disk drive at all, correct.
So that's Exhibit 149. Do you recall that?
I do.
Do we have that handy?
Right down in the box, it's in the gray plastic.
So Exhibit 149 is your understanding, that's the original hard disk drive that was in the DVR when it was seized on June 18th.
That is correct.
And so one could install this into the DVR and play it and see, does it have skips and freezes?
They could.
But that wasn't done here.
That was not for fear of corrupting the evidence.
Now, you remember Mark Archibald, the camera person?
I remember him, yes.
And you had some interaction with him?
No.
Okay. Do you recall that he testified that the system was a 2 terabyte hard disk drive?
Objection.
What size is this original hard disk drive?
It is 1 terabyte.
1 terabyte. And that's what was taken out of the original, out of the DVR after it was seized by the state police.
That is correct.
A 1 terabyte hard disk drive.
Correct.
Now, at some point, you were trying to figure out if there was a way to sync up the digital cameras in this case. Is that right?
That is also correct.
To try to ameliorate the phenomenon of skipping and freezing.
Correct.
And to try to make it so that if you were playing a digital camera and an analog camera, they would be synced.
Correct.
So, with respect to this technique of trying to address the problem of skips and freezes, do you recall video of the evening of the 17th when Trooper Shervin and Detective Arrighi were at the Hernandez home in the evening hours?
I do.
And do you recall that there was a time when they were in the backyard with their flashlights looking in the sliding doors?
Yes.
And that was captured on, you probably know it by heart, camera 12.
Correct.
And that's a camera that's located on the pool house looking at the sliding doors.
That is correct.
And that's a digital camera.
It is.
So it suffers from this phenomenon of skipping and freezing.
Yes, it does.
And so you prepared a series of CDs or DVDs about the visit outside the house by Trooper Shervin and Detective Arrighi.
I did.
And those were introduced into evidence.
They were.
And the one that was a digital camera was from the pool house, camera 12, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And that was one of those CDs or DVDs that you played.
It was.
And in that DVD, you had altered the frame rate of that DVD. Is that right?
For that particular camera?
Yes.
I had addressed the freezing. Sorry.
How did you do that?
I would watch the video. If the frames were if the video was just continuing moving in smooth motion, I did nothing. Once it froze, I'd stop the video. Again, this is all within Adobe Premiere Pro. I'd stop the video. I'd create what would be called 2 different segments. I'd play it again until it picked up again, split it again. Where that 3rd segment is supposed to be, I would move it to its appropriate time, and then slow down the frame rate of that middle segment.
And so that was done on the exhibit that was received into evidence, correct?
It was.
And was any testimony received about that process when we saw that video?
There was not.
Now, and it wasn't until sometime later that that was disclosed. Is that fair?
It was a day or 2 later, correct.
Now, the video software that you used a product called Movavi.
That is correct.
M-O-V-A-V-I.
Yes.
And that enables you, tell me if I got this right,
Sure.
to use the backup function of the DVR player, correct?
No.
Okay.
No.
It allows you to do a screen capture.
Correct.
As the video is playing.
From a laptop PC,
Okay.
not from the DVR itself.
So what's on your laptop is not the cloned copy, correct?
No, correct.
And so you've got a Windows sort of copy on your laptop.
Correct.
And then you, and there's no way to hash the Windows copy to the original hard disk drive. Is that right?
Absolutely not.
So you can't say that the software made an exact bit-for-bit copy.
I cannot make that statement, no.
Okay. And so then you have the Windows copy on your hard disk drive.
Correct.
And that's not the one that's in the video machine.
Correct.
That's on your computer.
Correct.
And then you use Movavi to do a screen capture of what you want to capture.
Yes.
And Movavi is a software program, correct?
It is.
And it has instructions or software language that tells the computer how to capture those images.
There are settings absolutely to what frame rate you want to capture at, so forth and so on, yes.
And that can't be hashed or determined to be an exact clone, is that right?
No, you cannot.
And once you have exported it through Movavi screen capture program, you've then got 5 hours or so of video, right?
I actually captured much more than that here. We boiled it down to these 5 hours.
Okay. So you've got that on your hard drive as well.
I do.
And then you put it into something called Adobe
Premiere Pro.
Adobe Premiere Pro. Tell us what that program is like. What does that do?
It's a video editing software that we use typically just for, again, editing video, redactions here, again, the phenomenon of trying to sync up these cameras here.
Okay. Does it have other capabilities?
Absolutely. You can zoom, you can make images larger, you can make them smaller here, you can I use it to put, circle people as well here. It has many different capabilities.
So it's a pretty sophisticated video editing program.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about the frame rate of the digital and the analog cameras.
Correct.
So you've got 20 frames per second on the digital cameras and 30 frames per second on the other cameras.
Correct.
In any of the screen captures that you went through, did you go frame by frame to see that the images that were exported to Movavi were the same?
I did go frame by frame. That's the only way I could do the synchronization.
Frame by frame as you played it, but not frame by frame clicking through one at a time.
No, frame by frame, clicking through one at a time. In Premiere Pro, that also has that capability.
Well, I'm trying to see if, let's stick with 5 hours, okay? We know you exported at least 5 hours
Absolutely.
to your hard drive.
Yep.
At 20 frames a minute, there'd be, at 20 frames a second, there would be millions of frames.
I went through each one.
Click by click by click.
Yeah.
And you have the two of them side by side.
No, this is just during the synchronization process here. After the Movavi capture and bringing it into Premiere Pro, I went through click by click by click on each video.
All right, so your testimony is that for those 5 hours in the thumb drive, you've compared the Movavi, the Premiere Pro to what's in the DVR.
I am, yeah.
And this was not just playing it through and looking.
No.
This was frame by frame.
Absolutely.
How long did that take?
I have watched this video in excess of 300 hours.
So it took you 300 hours to go, or over 300 hours to go frame by frame.
Correct.
And you didn't see any differences.
Movavi was set to capture at 30 frames per second to make sure I captured the entirety here. Nothing was dropped. There were some duplicate frames in those seconds, but the 1 second period covered a 1 second period from the DVR to the backup to Movavi to Adobe. 1 second was 1 second.
So the program added some frames because the digital cameras were only going at 20 frames a second?
That is correct. With the analog, it did not add anything.
So the digital, the process, the software that's written adds 10 frames or?
Thereabouts it did, yes.
All right. And what did you do with those 10 frames?
They're still in there here. Again, a 1 second period covered a 1 second period.
Okay. So there's frames that have been added in the Exhibit 427 that don't appear in the DVR.
Duplicated would be more accurate here because the two frames are going to be the exact same. The person in the same exact position and everything while they're walking through. So they're duplicated, yes.
So if I'm standing in the driveway, and, well, the driveway is not a good example because that's an analog, correct?
That's correct.
But if I'm standing in the foyer and I'm standing like this, there might be 3 pictures of me in the this Exhibit 427, whereas the original, not the original, the clone you're working from only had 1 image of me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that's an accurate statement, yes.
Your Honor, maybe we can come to sidebar, please. So, Mr. Reset, these editing video editing programs or software editing programs can be very sophisticated. Is that right?
I would say so, yes.
And you can edit an image so that to the naked eye it appears virtually impossible to tell that, correct?
True.
So you can reposition body parts or other things in an image, and just looking at the naked eye, you couldn't tell that that was done.
That's correct.
Now, so I'm going to show you some photographs and ask you if those appear to be bitmap images from the home surveillance system.
Yes, they do.
And, well, I'll offer these, Your Honor.
I have no objection.
And if you were looking at Exhibit 429, it's fair to say that these are a series of images that capture a second in time from the video.
Yes.
So that, in other words, if we were to play the video, we would see these images appear in fluid motion, or fluid motion to the extent that the digital cameras capture the fluid motion.
Correct.
So the first image in this series is on the display now, and then I'll just flip to the last image. And it shows some movement, correct?
Correct.
Now, the first image on Exhibit 429 has a screen time of June 17 at 1:01 p.m. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you know from having watched this hundreds of hours that that's off by more or less 12 hours.
That's 12:57 a.m.
So if I ask you to play camera 13 at 12:56 a.m. from June 17, we would expect to see this series of images. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Could you do that for us?
Of course.
From 150 to 151?
Do you want me to just play or go frame by frame on the DVR?
I think if you just play a minute's worth, that would be great.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I could, are we talking about system time? Because that has to be corrected as well.
Well, this is system time that I was talking about. 12:56
He's right.
System time.
I'll take Mr. Rissett's advice.
And while you're doing that, do you recall that this is in the time when Ms. Jenkins and Mr. Hernandez have come home from the South Street Cafe, but before Mr. Hernandez, Wallace, and Ortiz leave.
This is about 15 minutes after they came home, correct?
Okay. So what's the time in the green bar down below?
Right now we are looking at 12:56 a.m. on June 17th.
Yes. And so that's the, that captured the series of images that are in Exhibit 429.
That did.
Now, let me show you another batch of images and ask you if this is the immediately following seconds in the great room, camera 14. So if you could just take a look at those and tell me if they appear to follow in sequence from the foyer image that we were just looking at. And there's a yellow page in there that separates the 1 second from another second.
Oh, okay. Yes, it does.
Okay. So there we go. There we go. Yep. I'd offer these, Your Honor.
No objection.
And so Exhibit 430, the first page shows the living room or great room area, and the screen time is June 17 at 13:01:32.
I can't see it, but yes, I do remember that. That's all right. It does show that.
There we go.
Yep.
So could you locate that? And you know that to be about 12 hours and 5 minutes off on that camera?
12:04.
12:04.
Yep.
So could you locate that on the DVR
Of course.
and play that minute or so of video? For
Absolutely.
And you haven't paused it, it's just gone through, correct?
That is correct.
I mean, it's gone frozen. Okay, that's good on that, thank you. Now,
Bless you.
did I ask you to prepare a DVD or CD of some images from about 3:30 system time on June 17th?
From 3:26.
Okay?
Yes.
Perfect. And does this appear to be that?
It does.
Okay. I'd offer this, Your Honor.
No objection.
And these are in Windows Media Player format.
Yes, they can be played through Windows Media Player.
And what we have on here are a series of clips from different cameras recording the movement of people for a few minutes.
Starting with the car coming down Ronald C. Meyer, all the way until they get into the house, correct?
Okay. And so, using a computer, one could play each individual clip.
Correct.
Just by clicking on that, double-clicking on it, and it will come up.
That is correct.
Now, could you also, when you pop the disc into a computer, does it also allow you to just say, play in Windows Media Player?
It does.
And it would play one clip after another?
That it will do.
And you wouldn't have to stop and play each of 10 different clips?
Exactly.
Your Honor, may I put this in the computer and play it? Okay. Are you set up to do that here, or?
Yeah, I can make a quick switch.
Okay. And so, before we, thank you. So before we play this, if you put this disc into the computer, you'll see the file names of several files.
Correct.
And those are in sequence, correct?
They are.
So the topmost file will be the earliest in time.
That is correct.
And that's important to note because the screen time that's reflected on the screen is only related to the system time for the analog cameras.
That is correct.
So the first, the clip of them arriving in the driveway is an analog camera, correct?
The first clip is them coming down Ronald C. Meyer, just so you know.
Yes,
Yep,
no, I understand
yep,
that.
yep.
But the clip of them actually pulling into the driveway, camera 3, is an analog camera.
That is correct.
And that just shows the screen time, which is the system time.
Correct.
And then they go into the view of the great room or the living room.
Correct.
That's a digital camera.
Correct.
So that's going to have a screen time that's 12 hours and 4 minutes off.
Correct.
And similarly, when they go into the
Foyer.
Foyer, it's going to be 12 hours and
4 minutes.
And
Varying seconds, but yes.
Okay. So the way to look at this in sequence is to just click on. Could we switch the view to?
No, you.
So you've just clicked on, when the frame comes up on the screen, you said play in Windows Media Player, and this will just click through from one to the other.
It should, yes.
And this is maybe 4 or 5 minutes of video?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Thank you. Now it's going to switch automatically to the living room camera.
Yes, it will.
And when that frame just froze there for a second, that wasn't something that you're not pausing that.
I am not pausing that.
That's just on the.
That's present on the DVR as well.
And now it's switched to the foyer.
Correct. I will just say,
You're not pausing that.
no, I'll just say that the black blips between the clips, that's just the file transition. That's nothing.
And the camera's frozen on 15:33:05 for some period of time.
It is.
And then it skips forward to 13 and then 17.
Yes.
And your testimony would be that in the thumb drive, there would be duplicates in the skipping and freezing, duplicate images filled in by the Movavi software.
Yes. Again, with the caveat saying a second covered a second. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Reset.
You were asked about number 149. What's the size of the storage on this particular item?
1 terabyte.
And what is the size of the storage of the hard drive that is currently within the DVR?
2 terabytes.
And is there a reason that when you put a set of files, when you make a copy of a set of files, that you use a hard drive which is actually larger than the original?
To ensure that it gets on.
What do you mean by that?
You don't want to have you don't want to be restoring an image. It's not a fast process. You don't want to restore an image and then have it fail at the very end here. There's no harm in having a larger drive.
So is there anything that gets put in the extra space at all?
No.
The council asked you about the process of making this particular video. And you have indicated that you've actually watched the video frame by frame. First of all the video that you have put onto the little thumb drive, have you watched all of that particular video frame by frame?
I have.
And is there any difference at all in the perceptible eye of actually looking at it from that video to the DVR's video?
There isn't.
With regards to the process that you used to make the segments that were just watched for the defense, what process did you use to make those particular segments?
Same process.
Did you use the Movavi?
I used the Movavi to capture some of what we had already captured. Used the Movavi to capture it, import it into Adobe Premiere Pro, and then just the time segments that he had requested, as well as you guys had requested, was exported.
So you were also asked questions about the capabilities of Adobe Premiere Pro. It's a fairly sophisticated program.
It is.
Have you used any of the parts of that program or any other program to in any way at any time manipulate or change the actual images in this particular case?
I've not changed the images at all, no.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Sorry, maybe we come to sidebar now. Mr. Reset, I just want to address the last question and answer. You about whether the software editing programs have ever been used to alter images. Remember that question and answer?
I do.
Now, with respect to this software editing program, I think you testified that they have the capability of altering images.
Correct.
And am I correct in understanding that during the course of this case, you prepared still photograph with an altered image?
Not from the DVR.
No, a still photograph, not from the DVR at all.
Yes.
And you were able to use your software program to alter certain aspects of that image, correct?
Yes.
And that was prepared for purposes of this case, but was never used. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
If I might just have one question. It's not unusual in your experience preparing exhibits in cases to be asked by a party to redact a certain portion of an image. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely fair to say, yes.
Nothing further, Judge.
Please follow me. Please face the clerk and raise your right hand.
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony I'm about to give to this court, Mr. is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, to help you God?
I do.
Sorry about that. Apologize, Your Honor. We just did that. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you state your full name, please?
It's William Zane, Z-A-N-E.
And, sir, where do you work?
I work at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. Currently, I work in the Southeastern Regional Office, which is in Sandwich, Massachusetts.
Okay. How long have you worked for the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner?
Since November of 1987.
Okay. Could you just describe your duties working for the medical examiner's office?
There are two, essentially. One is a medical examiner or medical doctor triaging cases, determining when deaths are sudden and unexpected, whether they need to be further investigated. And then there's the second part of the job, which is determining cause of death when it's sudden and unexpected.
And are you a medical doctor?
Yes.
Where did you go to medical school?
University of Massachusetts, Worcester.
Okay. And after, what year did you complete your medical schooling?
1981.
Can you tell us what you did upon getting your medical degree?
I spent 1 year as a medical intern at a small hospital in New Haven, Connecticut, Hospital of St. Raphael. Then I went into hospital pathology and spent 3 years training at Hartford Hospital. After that point, I elected to study or go into another area. Medicine has specialties such as surgery and internal medicine. Pathology is a specialty. One of the subspecialties of pathology is forensic or legal pathology.
Okay. Can you tell us, so what is pathology?
Essentially the study of tissue and fluids that have gone wrong in the body.
Okay. And what is forensic pathology?
It's determining why someone has passed away, and the main laboratory tool is the autopsy.
Are you a forensic pathologist, sir?
Yes.
And as a result, do you make determinations of the cause of death?
Yes.
And in the course of making those determinations, do you conduct autopsies?
Yes.
How many autopsies have you conducted?
Between 7,000 and 8,000.
And is there a particular procedure that you follow with regard to conducting an autopsy?
Yes.
And what is that procedure? Well, let me ask you this first. Is it broken down into three essential parts?
Yes.
And is one of the parts an external examination?
Yes.
Is there an internal examination?
Yes.
And is there also a toxicological examination?
Yes.
Now, directing your attention to a case from June of 2013, did you have an occasion to conduct an autopsy on an individual by the name of Odin Lloyd?
Yes, I did.
And when did you conduct that autopsy?
On June 18th, 2013.
And where was that autopsy conducted?
At the Cape office.
In the Cape office, is that located in Sandwich?
Yes.
Is that where you have worked out of since that office was set up?
Yes.
Okay. Now, on that date, if you would just describe for us, please, your general observations prior to or as you began your autopsy on the body of Odin Lloyd. Let me ask it this way, sir. With regard to, was this a young man?
Yes.
Of approximate what age?
He was approximately 27 years of age.
Okay. And just a general description in terms of his ethnicity?
He was black.
Okay. And in terms of height and weight?
He was approximately 72 inches in height and 207 pounds in weight.
72 inches in height, is that 6 feet even?
Yes.
Okay. And with regard to, did you make general observations of, well, let me ask it this way. When you first observed him, is he in a clothed or unclothed condition?
He was not wearing clothes.
Okay. And at that time, did you make general observations of the external portions of his body?
Yes.
And just tell us generally, did you note any injuries to his body?
Yes.
And had you seen similar types of injuries over the course of your career?
Yes.
And what types of injuries were they?
They were injuries caused by firearms.
Okay. Now, with regard to injuries caused by firearms, are there particular types of injuries that you can observe or distinguish based on either an entrance or an exit wound?
Yes.
Okay. Can you first just describe the features of an entrance wound?
Entrance wound usually is a punched-out wound. It's a wound where there's loss of tissue at the site where the bullet enters. The simple analogy is a paper punch. Because the skin is supported by tissue, the bullet itself causes a punched-out or sheared wound. And also, with an entrance wound, you have an abrasion collar, or a marginal abrasion, which is caused by the bullet scraping the edges, and the tissue in the adjacent area supporting the skin there.
Okay. And did you make, when you externally examined the body of Odin Lloyd, did you make any observations of what appeared to be entrance wounds by gunshot?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to exit wounds, can you describe the features of an exit wound?
Your typical exit wound does not cause tissue loss, since usually the skin is not supported on the outer surface, and because the bullet is traveling through tissue, lacerating tissue, and then just expanding the skin usually tears and does not cause a loss of tissue at that area.
Okay. Did you make any observations of what appeared to be exit wounds on the body of Odin Lloyd when you began your external examination?
Yes.
Now, just is there, with regard to the procedure that you follow during the course of your external examination, what is that?
Usually obtain some information as to why the person is there in front of us. Then I direct someone to remove clothing that's there. I make notes, I make diagrams, and I also take digital images or photographs. There's usually someone from a police agency taking photographs as well, or digital images. And I make notations as to the presence or absence of trauma or natural disease on the surface.
Okay. And at some point, sir, did you make notations and ultimately prepare a report with regard to trauma that you noted to the external portions of Mr. Lloyd's body?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just with regard to, do you start at a particular, either from the head and work down, or how do you go about conducting or noting any injuries to the external portions of the body?
I usually just stop on whim and start a particular area.
Okay. In this case, where did you start?
Well, I looked at the chest, the torso.
Okay. The position of Mr. Lloyd's body when you first observed it, in what position was he?
He was in a prone position, meaning that the anterior portion of his body was facing the ceiling.
And at some point, were you able to make observations of his chest area?
Yes.
And when you did that, did you note any injuries?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe the first injury you noted?
Yes, that Mr. Lloyd had a gunshot wound on his right anterior chest, about 17 inches below the head and about approximately 2 inches to the right of the anterior midline. For the purposes of the court, I'm now pointing on my body.
And Your Honor, if I could have the witness stand up, please, just so that everyone can see him.
For the purposes of the court, I'm now pointing on my body, the approximate area where this wound was.
Okay. And thank you, sir. And with regard to what you observed there, just describe that wound.
That there was a gunshot wound that features of an entrance, that it was round, it was approximately a quarter of an inch in diameter, and that it had a abrasion collar about it, that there was no sort of powder evident on the skin or in the wound, and that it entered the skin.
Okay. Did you, excuse me, did you assign some notation or a number to this injury?
Yes.
And how did what number did you assign?
Roman numeral 1.
Okay. Now, so injury number 1, you said you noted it being an entrance wound?
Yes.
Did you then make other observations of any other gunshot wounds in the chest area?
Yes, on the left anterior chest, there was a gunshot wound approximately, actually, let me start with saying, there was a gunshot wound to the right abdomen. And for the purpose of the court, I'm now pointing on my right abdomen the gunshot wound. This wound was, sorry, I'm out of order. This wound was 24 inches below the top of the head and 3 inches from the anterior midline.
Okay. Now, just with regard to, at some point, did you assign a number of Roman numerals to the wounds that you observed to the body of Odin Lloyd?
Yes, this was Roman numeral 3.
Okay. So, just going back, you've described number 1, which was on the right chest, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Was there Roman numeral number 2?
Yes, there was.
Okay, and what injury did you note at Roman numeral number 2?
There was a round gunshot wound, actually a slightly oval gunshot wound on the left anterior chest, approximately 17 inches below the top of the head, and 2 inches to the left of the anterior midline.
Okay, and Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could have the witness stand up again. Now, sir, if you would just indicate where this wound was on your body, and...
I'm now pointing to my left chest.
Okay, and just with regard to, if you just remain standing for 1 second, sir, Roman numeral number 1 that you just pointed out to the right chest, if you just indicate with both hands now the locations of those...
I'm now pointing on my chest with both hands.
Okay, thank you, sir. And now you had indicated that there was, you made an observation of and noted at Roman numeral number 3, injury to the right flank. Is that right?
Yes.
And that, I think you had pointed out on your own body, true?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a 4th injury that you noted to the external portion of Mr. Lloyd's body?
Yes, there was.
And did you assign that Roman numeral number 4?
Yes.
And where was that one located?
That wound was on the right clavicle, approximately 11 inches below the top of the head.
Okay. And again, Your Honor, if I could have the witness stand, please. Could you just point to that, sir?
I'm now pointing to my right clavicle, the approximate area where this wound was.
Okay, and the clavicle is in the area of what, sir?
It's the collarbone.
Okay. Thank you. And how about, did you notice any other injuries to the body of Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
And was there, the next injury was that assigned Roman numeral number 5?
Yes.
And just please describe that injury.
That there was a gunshot wound to the right upper back that was located 12 inches below the top of the head and, bear with me, approximately 2 inches to the right of the posterior midline.
Okay. And if you wouldn't, again, with the court's permission, stand up and just point out that area, that injury, please.
It's a little hard to do, but I'm now pointing on my right back, pretty much at the shoulder where this gunshot entrance wound was.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now, with regard to, was there one other wound that you also observed in the body of Odin Lloyd?
Yes.
And with regard to, did you assign that Roman numeral number 6?
Yes.
And if you could, can you show us where that is located?
There was a gunshot wound to the right forearm, on the back of the right forearm. If you imagine that a person is standing straight up and the palms of the hands are facing forward, this is the usual position I describe people in. On the...
Your Honor, objection system. Describe where the injury was, please.
If you can just show us.
I'm pointing on my right posterior forearm, the area where this wound was.
Okay, when you say the posterior forearm, is that the outer portion of the arm?
Yes.
Okay, and is there an anterior portion of the arm?
Yes.
And would that just be on the reverse side, the inner side of the forearm?
That's correct. I'm pointing to my right forearm,
okay.
Anterior surface.
Now, sir, you may have a seat, please. So, did you note 6 gunshot wounds in total?
Yes.
Okay. And then, as a result of noting those wounds, did you then make observations individually of them in an attempt to determine whether those 6 were either entrance or exit wounds?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us, I think you indicated the first injury, the gunshot wound to the right chest, was an entrance wound?
Yes.
What about to the left chest, Roman numeral number 2?
That was an entrance.
What about Roman numeral number 3, gunshot wound of abdomen?
That was an entrance.
What about Roman numeral number 4, gunshot wound of right shoulder and back?
I did not make a notation as to whether one was an entrance or an exit.
Okay. Sir, you had described earlier that there was a bullet injury to the clavicle, the one we're talking about now on Roman numeral number 4.
Yes.
And just describe the tissue in that area, the skin or the tissue.
It's very thin skin.
Okay. And as a result of that, were there features that were there not enough features for you to make a determination of entrance or exit?
Beyond a reasonable doubt, yes.
Okay. Now, with regard to then Roman numeral number 5, the gunshot wound to the back, were you able to determine whether that was entrance or exit?
I did make that determination.
And what did you find?
That it was an entrance.
And the last, Roman numeral number 6, gunshot wound of right forearm, you indicated the posterior portion of the arm. Was that entrance or exit?
That was entrance.
Okay. Now, after making these findings about entrance or not being able to with regard to the clavicle gunshot wound, did you then move to conduct an internal examination of the body of Odin Lloyd?
Yes, I did.
And if you could just describe, beginning with the gunshot wound of the chest, Roman numeral number 1, right chest, what did you do to determine any path that gunshot wound took through the body of Odin Lloyd?
That it entered the chest cavity by fracturing the right third rib anteriorly. Then it went through the upper lobe of the right lung. It continued and left the chest cavity through the 5th rib, the posterior 5th rib on the right side. Eventually there was a gunshot exit wound found on the back.
When you said there was a gunshot exit wound, was that consistent with the features you've already described for an exit wound?
Some of the features, yes.
And were you able to then recover a projectile from the body relating to the injury, beginning at the right chest, traveling, as you've described, through the body of Odin Lloyd?
No bullet was recovered.
Okay. Now, with regard to gunshot wound of the left chest, Roman numeral number 2, if you would just describe, did you conduct an internal examination to determine the path of that projectile?
Yes, I did.
And just tell us what you found.
That there was a entrance through, I believe, the 6th rib. Let me double check, please. There was a entrance into the chest cavity through the 6th rib anteriorly on the left side, and the path was followed. It went through the upper lobe of the left lung, and then it went through the covering of the heart, or the pericardium. It grazed the back of the heart on the right ventricle. It then exited the pericardial cavity and went through the diaphragm and went through the liver, the right side, the left side of the liver, and it went through soft tissue, or went into bone right at the 12th rib on the left side, right at the vertebral column, okay, right at the back, almost at the midline.
Okay, so the rib you're describing there, is that in the back portion near the where the spine is?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the pericardium, can you explain to the jurors what is that?
It's parchment-like area. It's a parchment-like piece of tissue, which is firm, but it's also has a lot of resilience and elasticity, and it covers the heart to provide some protection from the other organs. There's fluid in between the heart and the pericardium, and that way the heart can move to its content inside the pericardial sac.
Okay. Did you make certain observations about the condition of the pericardial sac on the body of Odin Lloyd?
Yes.
And just describe what you observed.
That there was a perforation in and a perforation out.
Okay. Was that consistent with the path of the bullet going from the left chest and moving through the body as you've described?
Yes, it resulted in a 2 by 4 centimeter graze wound to the back of the right heart.
Okay. In that type of injury, did that cause any bleeding in the body of Odin Lloyd?
Yes.
How much bleeding?
It caused approximately 500 ml of blood in the left chest cavity, and along with the other wound, there was approximately 250 ml of blood in the right chest cavity.
Okay, when you say ml, what does that stand for?
Milliliters.
Okay, and just give us an idea of the quantity of that blood in terms of by volume, some other form of volume.
A cup would be a little bit more than would be a little less than 500 milliliters, meaning that about 200 millimeters of fluid fills in about half a cup. So there's half a cup of blood in the right chest cavity, and approximately more than a cup of blood was in the left chest cavity.
We're going to take a morning recess at this time. Please keep an open